chat below to ask a question, and we'll go ahead.
Fresno Beavers, right?
Yeah, well, Anthony Galvis, where are you at?
Okay.
Hey, Reggie Woodson, you are on, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, congratulations there, Rick. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Crystal clear.
Oh, okay. Hey, I was checking you out on Instagram, man. You were very excited about what you were able to accomplish, in the 2 events that you set up that were canceled or postponed and whatnot. Kind of how do you approach putting together the, potentially the undisputed fight? What will you be looking for?
In a normal circumstance, we'd have a crowd and there'd be a lot of different things I could bring to the table for Top Rank to evaluate and look at. But based on, the current situation we're all in, I think Aram has, said it best with the fight will probably take place in a non-crowd environment. So I'll be limited with, what we can do as far as staging an event or anything. So I look for this event probably go to the highest bidder, end up in London somewhere or, possibly even Vegas. But I don't anticipate a crowd or, us being able to do that yet. If there was, I think I'd fill our Fresno State football stadium. This would be the first time I'd go there. And I think we'd get, 20, 25,000 people. In fact, I know I could, but we're just not in those times right now.
How do you feel about this, everything that you guys have been able to accomplish and what you've worked to, and now to get here to this type of moment and, not be able to rely on, the home field advantage, so to speak?
As Ramirez has shown, he's went on the road and won each of his world titles and expect the same thing to happen again. It doesn't make a difference if he's at home or if he's away. So there's no advantage there by fighting at home. That's been done a few times because he just loves the, people that live in the Central Valley and knows the support's there. So, we often would do that for him. But Ramirez will get on a plane and go to Scotland or London and let Josh Taylor have it. You trust me.
Last question, just, what was your and what you saw take place in a fighter that you're very familiar with?
Please repeat the first part of that question. You cut off.
Sorry. I just said, I forgot what I said, honestly. You're very familiar with your fighter, and just how would you grade tonight's performance, and, what were some of the issues that you think kind of stalled things out just a little bit?
I don't think there was any issues. I think any top tier fighter, a Crawford or a Taylor, would have had a similar fight. I mean, this guy was off 3 or 4 camps. You saw in the 7th that he almost put him away, or he was in danger. Postol was. So all things factored in. Ramirez went out there and took care of work in a tough environment. I don't think, and I'm willing to go on the record and say, can you tell me another fighter that has had 4 camps for the same fight? I mean, that's got some mental, wearability on you, So I think he handled it like a champion. I don't think most guys could go through that many camps and stay positive, dealing with their coach getting COVID. He may not be there. He may not be there. Like, this is an all-star performance, in my opinion, based on just the environment and what's gone on.
Thank you very much, Reggie. Now we turn over to Gail. Gail, go ahead.
Thank you very much. After the fight, in the ESPN post-fight interview, Jose mentioned that he really felt the lack of fans, and all things considered, he would like to put the fight against Taylor in front of fans. Will that play into the decision where to cite the fight, considering 6-8 months from now, that might be a possibility?
The one thing I've learned during the past year is that nobody has a decision in this, meaning when a crowd comes back, there's going to be a very big political movement, and we'll see a lot of other things happen before a boxing crowd is back again. So I don't think we're in a position to, make that choice. Of course, Jose wants it. I want it. I think every fighter out there wants to be in a crowd situation, but I think Top Rank has jumped out there and been a leader by just giving us a platform and fighters just to have a major fight like this. in the COVID era, I would say this is the biggest fight that's taken place without question. For many reasons, tonight was a special night. This was a big fight, the biggest, and we may not have the crowd, but we'll still have the action and stuff in there. So I think for me, I just want to see testing get better, so a fighter doesn't have to go through 4 camps. Tests become more reliable. Those are the things I think that might give us a little bit of a boost and some positive energy going into the next fight. But the crowds are going to happen when they happen.
Well, now, sorry to interrupt, Gail, but you'll be able to ask the first question for Jose Ramirez because he just walked in. Rick, thank you very much. And we close out the proceedings tonight with the still WBC, WBO junior welterweight champion of the world, Mr. Jose Ramirez, pride of the Central Valley. Jose, go ahead. Gail, your lead off. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jose. Congratulations. Your first question coming from Southern California here in San Diego. I just asked about your comment at the end of the fight about the lack of the fans and how that affected you and your druthers to have a fight with Taylor in front of fans. But it did seem to me that Robert stepped in numerous times in the corner during the fight to provide the motivation where the fans were lacking. Would you agree? Did you
hungry, and he understands it's been such a long year of me training, so he knew I went through a lot of training camps, a lot of sacrifice, putting my body through so much work that he probably knew that I was a little tired, mentally from just being the whole year inside the gym. So he just wanted me to, to finish strong, and I was, he knew I was okay. He knew I was comfortable in there. He just wanted me to be more myself, and let my punches go.
Do you think there are any lessons for you in this? I mean, hopefully you'll never be put in this situation again. But what can you draw from the negatives about these long, drawn-out issues, the testing problems, everything that's gone on? Do you kind of say, I'm putting that off in the box, locking that away, and calling it done?
Yeah, it's part of learning, and it was something new for me. So it was good for me to go through this type of adversity, you could say. Again, it wasn't so much of the 3 days or 4 days being in the bubble. It was more like, just I went through so much since November of 2019 to get ready for the same fighter. So obviously we put in so many rounds of sparring and stuff like that. So it's very important that I measure my body correctly to make sure I don't overwork. And I think that was one thing that I was able to understand better, to see how my body reacts, if I stay in the gym and put so much work. And that's something that Robert Garcia also with Chip and Charles were able to see as well, so it's good for us to go through this experience. And I was just grateful, and it's a blessing, it's a blessing that I'm now in a position where I'm just waiting for Josh Taylor to see, hopefully, he defends his titles, and then we can make the fight happen.
Thank you very much, Gail. Sorry to cut you off, Gail. I apologize. We got Jeremy Harridges on the line. Jeremy, go ahead.
Hey, Jose, congratulations on retaining your titles and the victory. As far as your expectations, did Viktor Postol surprise you with anything that he did tonight? And what did you think about his performance?
No, he could take a punch, but no, there was nothing new. I think if I would have put a little bit more pressure and just let my punches go, and if I would have felt a little more fresh, my body just not as tense, I think I would have done much better. But hey, it was a great fight. It's a good fight, and I'm glad we both came out healthy. But I could see he was respecting my power. I was just, my mistake was that I was waiting for that one shot, and instead of letting my combinations go. And I think that was my biggest mistake. But Postol's a great man. He's a very disciplined fighter. Everybody in the world in boxing knows that he's a very disciplined fighter. Even when he's not training for a fight, he's always staying physically active in his country, and he takes care of his body pretty well for his age. So, I would have loved to make a bigger statement, but hey, it's part of boxing.
Looking over the history of your career so far, obviously keeping everything in mind with all of your experiences, would this fight stack up as one of your hardest to date, in your opinion?
No, I think probably I had other previous fights that I felt like I was more concerned. And this fight was just, I knew he didn't have the power or much to hurt me. It was just, my problem was that I need to let my punches go. I was a little too patient. I was a little too hesitant. And so I made the fight a little bit more difficult for myself.
Going forward, if you have to fight in this environment again, anything that you would do differently the second time around, and obviously, hoping that you don't have to do, multiple training camps for one fight?
Yeah, I think the most important is just, it's getting a good break, letting my body recover, letting my body get fresh again, and then going back to training with that motivation and drive that I want to work hard for a good fight, and even if I have to go through this experience one more time, I think my body's going to react a lot better. I just need to let my body recover. I think that's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jose, and congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Again, raise hand mechanism or send in the chat. Jose's tired, so we'll only do a couple more questions for Jose, and then we'll let him relax and enjoy the evening. Reggie, go ahead, sir.
Hey, congrats on the victory there, Jose. And you get that moment, I don't know what it was earlier in the first half of the fight, you do get the left hand through and he stumbles for a minute. What was your thought process at that moment?
I think I knew I was able to hurt him, but I think what I lacked most in this fight was just the killer instinct, the killer instinct that I usually show in other fights. And if I would have used that killer instinct in this fight, I think I would have put him away, but my hat's off to Viktor Postol, because he's a true champion. He's a true gentleman. But it's part of learning. It's part of learning and going through this type of fights too. It was good that I got the 12 rounds in, because it reminds me of what I have to go through for 12 rounds in a 12-round fight. And I'm just ready to rest, relax, and then hopefully get ready for Josh Taylor.
Tons of experience in your corner, and Robert Garcia with all of his, all of the guys that he's training, the world champions that he interacts with and whatnot. Was any thought given earlier in the process about all of the time spent in camp? Were any breaks worked into it, or off days, or?
Yeah, the first two camps, man, I was extremely sharp. For the third camp, obviously I was already my body was a little tired. So Robert will give me a day, a couple of days off, and he wanted me to come back. And there were so many things happening in my personal life too that I wanted to just kind of go through the motion with this fight and get back to my personal life. That sometimes when you're stuck in the sport too much, you start missing your personal life a little bit, your family and you're just being a brother, a father, a son. And Robert and my team, my corner, they did a good job to just remind me, hey, Jose, you're already there. You could, you just keep being you, push them, don't respect them, don't give them anything. And then I tried, obviously I tried. I was making them, I was blocking most of the punches that he was throwing, a lot of his touching punches I was blocking, and I started using my solid jab. And then for some time, I would think that I was in a sparring session, so I was just, too over relaxed. And instead of, like I said, I was just missing that killer instinct, that I usually show.
Thank you very much, Reggie. And sorry, again, I cut you off. I have a habit on this one tonight, cutting people off.
You can ask one more question. I know he has a good question.
No. Hey, you know what?
Go ahead.
Reggie, one more question. Let's go.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know if you watch basketball at all, but
Okay.
the guy from the Clippers, Paul George, just mentioned the effects of being away from his family and whatnot. Um, Going into potentially going into that undisputed fight, for you, is it imperative that that's in front of in the normal circumstances with fans in attendance and so on and so forth?
I'm ready to go through this experience with fans or no fans. I just gotta let my body recover a little bit, Same thing, when I fought Jose Cepeda, it wasn't my best performance, but then I went on to, to fight Hooker, and I went straight to unify those titles, and I showed, something new in the game fight, facing a tough Maurice Hooker. Same thing with this fight, I'm happy I got the 12 rounds in, and I know I'm going to be much, you could say, a fresher and with that killer instinct and much stronger fighter when I do face Josh Taylor. So every athlete is different. Some athletes, they miss their family more than others. Some need that support. Some don't. I'm a big time family man. So yeah, I think I could understand why Paul George would say something like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Reggie. With the last line of questions here, it's only fitting that we go to Anthony Galvez from the Fresno Bee. Anthony, go ahead.
Hey, Jose, congratulations on your win tonight. Going back to what Robert Garcia was telling you there before the 7th round, he saw some stuff in there that you might have got to pick up things here in the 7th round. You did pick up things in the 7th round when you rattled Viktor there. I was watching you, and I noticed there was I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a little bit of hesitation there because it seemed like you were waiting for the fans to come in and start cheering for you, because usually you pounce on your opponent when that happens. How much, you talked about it before, can you just recap what you saw there in the 7th round, and not having the fans there, how much did that really affect you?
Anthony, it's hard to say. I think it was more like my, I think for a second I got just too comfortable, treating it like a sparring session, treating the fight like a sparring session when I could have showed that killer instinct that I usually show, and I think it's part of experience, there's no excuses. It's part of the game, and I'm just going to learn from this, and it's my first time fighting under this circumstances. But again, it was such a long year. I sacrificed myself through training, through the holidays. I got engaged. I was missing my fiance, my family, my son. I'm expecting my second baby now too. I found out 3 weeks ago. So there was so many things that I wanted to just hurry up and get this fight over with. That I was a little distracted, and a little burned out, you could say, from being stuck in the sport for almost a whole year, without any reward, you could say. And I think I got too comfortable in there, and I could have just been myself, and I think I could have done a little bit more.
In sports, they talk about trap games, and obviously you want to become undisputed world champion in the 140 division. Did you kind of look ahead towards maybe possibly facing Josh Taylor? And this is a 2-part question, so answer that. The second question is, you want to become the first Hispanic champion in the whole 4 bouts. How important is that for you to establish, hey, I'm the first, I did it? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, of course I was looking at the importance, and that's what kept me motivated. I'm one fight away from fighting possibly for an undisputed, hopefully Josh Taylor defends his titles against his mandatory next month. But yeah, of course I was thinking a little ahead, and that's what kept me a little bit motivated. I know how important this fight was, though. I know that it was going to be a little complicated because Postol is a very long, crafty, tricky fighter, so I know he was going to make it a little bit more complicated. But as far as wanting to become a Hispanic, of course, that's a huge goal. That's something that's a motivation. That for me to not just to become the first Hispanic, not to brag about that or to have stories, written about me becoming the first one. It's not about that. It's just I want to see I just want to prove to myself if I'm the best 140. And by doing that, I have to face the best 140 pounders out there. And as we know, Josh Taylor has the other 2 bouts. And in order for me to say I was the best 140 before I make my move to 147, I have to face Josh Taylor. So I do that more for my own glory, for myself, you know, and not so much for the writers, for the people's opinions. You know, I do that for myself, and that's what I want to do.
Last question for you, Jose, before I let you go. How would you rate your performance tonight?
Like a 7. A 7 because I got the victory. A 6, I would have been in trouble.
Right.
It's like a D.
Hey, Anthony, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll get Jose back so we can relax. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you, everybody.